singing and writing for his family gospel band in South Mississippi. He achieved his first #1 gospel song as a songwriter at the age of 17 before moving to Nashville and founding and fronting the country rock band Western Flyer, with whom he made 2 albums and had several top 40 singles. In addition to playing or providing background vocals on records by the likes of Montgomery Gentry, Keith Anderson, Blake Shelton, Danny's also written songs for a diverse range of artists, from Maddie and Tay to Joe Cocker, and has celebrated numerous hits, including Craig Morgan's International Harvester, Tim McGraw's Truck Yeah, Low Cash's I Love This Life, as well as 2009's most played country smash, She's Country. So without further ado, Danny Myrick, I'm going to turn it over to you, baby. You're not going to hear the crowd is roaring right now, but you're just not going to hear it.
I can see them. I see the hands. I see the cheering, and that's kind of cool because I can let it sound like I want it to sound to me, right? I'll make the assumption it's really loud, and it sounds like an arena in my head. I don't know what it sounds like in your living room, but yeah, man. So my background, my dad was a Baptist preacher. I usually tell people that I'm a recovering preacher's son, and anybody who's a preacher's kid can totally relate to that, right? And but I always say also, don't worry about me. It's nothing that a little therapy and whiz can't fix. So I'm doing okay. But speaking of that, just a little background on me. So I grew up doing that. My dad preached. Our family traveled and sang, and I grew up on quartet music, like gospel quartet music. I don't know if anybody in here has any experience with that, but for any of you guys, old school country fans who know the Oak Ridge Boys, they were gospel when I met them when I was a kid. The Happy Goodman Family, all these old gospel groups. That's what I grew up on and started playing and singing that and having hits when I was a teenager. And man, I just kind of grew up around. My mom played piano and me and my brothers sang. We did our first album when I was 7. And like John said, I had my first #1 song when I was 17 in that Southern gospel world, and moved to Nashville to chase that dream, and ended up doing a country thing and started a band called Western Flyer, and then went on through that. And I'll talk a little bit about that more later. But I have been actually working on a solo record that I just finished, and I'll get into playing some of the hits that I've had in just a minute. But I'll kick it off with this because this kind of takes me, back to where I started. And by the way, as I'm getting going, let me make sure and say thanks so much to Hotel Sparrow and for being our sponsor tonight. I appreciate that. And what a beautiful city San Francisco is. I can't wait to get out there and check that out. So anyway, so on to the music. This song kind of, as I was getting ready to make this record, I just, as you do, you start thinking back to more personal things. And as opposed to thinking like, what is Blake Shelton or Jason Aldean or Tim McGraw wanting to say, kind of thinking, man, what I want to sing for myself. And so this is one of the first ones I wrote for it. And this may take you back a little bit to at least to Mississippi, where I'm from. It goes like this. Well, there's a candle crackling in my granny's kitchen. There's a whippoorwill singing outside of my window pane. There's an old Hank Williams song on the AM radio. And on the southern wind, there's an angel calling my name. Ooh, I can hear it down in my soul. Ooh, like it ain't another life ago. I close my eyes and I'm right back there. The soundtrack of my innocent years, like a needle dropping on my memories. That sure sounds like home to me. That sure sounds like home to me. Mama sitting there singing at the church piano. Second verse of Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Old man Wilson on his knees in the altar praying, got his hands up to the sky, right down sure sounds like home to me. Ooh, I can hear it down in my soul. Like it ain't another life ago. I close my eyes and I'm right back there. The soundtrack of my innocent years. They're like a needle dropping on memories. That sure sounds like home to me. 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 Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And the crowd goes wild. I love it. Yeah, thank you. That's kind of a my granddaddy on my mom's side in a little town called Soso, Mississippi. I doubt anybody's been to Soso, Mississippi, but it's a tiny little place in Jones County, Mississippi. If you've ever seen the movie or seen advertisements to the movie Free State of Jones, that's where I was born, Jones County. But my granddaddy was real into Hank Williams, and he played an acoustic guitar. He called a flat top guitar and really loved bluegrass music. And then, as I mentioned before, my mom played and sang gospel music, and that's kind of what got us going. So anyway, I started this band, Western Flyer. I did that in the 90s for a little bit. The band ended, and I was trying to figure out how to make a living. And I met this guy named Jeffrey Steele, who's a big Hall of Fame songwriter. And we started working together. He kind of became a mentor of mine, and we started writing together. And I got gigs occasionally singing background vocals on records. And honestly, one of my favorite stories is, man, I grew up pretty blue collar, and I believe strongly in hard work, you know, like most of y'all do, and or all of y'all do. And I remember there was a time after the band ended, I was really, really broke and trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had 2 really young kids and just trying to figure out life. And I remember one day I just kept thinking of things that my grandfather or my dad would say to me about just, you know, do the things that you're supposed to do, put your shoulder to the grind and work hard and all that stuff. So we were at a ball game one night, my son's baseball game, and I went over to one of the dads, and I was kind of embarrassed, and, you know, after having had a record deal and stuff, and I went to him and I was like, man, I'm looking for work. You have, you know, any work you can give me? And this guy owned a cabinet shop, right? And so he said, yeah, I need some walls torn down tomorrow. If you can come by and just knock down some walls, I'm putting in a new bathroom, whatever, give you like $10 an hour. I'm like, man, I'll take it, anything, you know? So I'm over there and I'm working, I'm covered in drywall, and I'm just kind of pissed at the world, and I'm frustrated I'm having to do this, and my pride's taking a hit, you know? And my cell phone rings, and I answer it, and it's this guy named Bobby Braddock. And for those of you who don't know, he's a Hall of Fame songwriter. He wrote He Stopped Loving Her Today for George Jones and a bunch of other songs. But he was producing this guy named Blake Shelton. And he goes, man, I heard that you are a pretty good harmony singer, and you could sing, you know, records and stuff, and I need a singer for this Blake Shelton record I'm working on. Could you maybe do that for a couple of days next week? And so I'm like, absolutely, you know. So I go get this gig, and I sang on Some Beach, some of the other records on that album, and you know, made about 2 months worth of money on those 2 days. And it was kind of a reminder to me of like chasing your dreams. Sometimes you just got to do the things that you got to do, right? And so anyway, that was kind of a big turn for me. And next thing I know, Jeffrey and I started writing together, and we ended up having this song on a guy named Craig Morgan. I saw some Wisconsin and Illinois and a bunch of different places that make me think of like farmland. Real quick, just to answer, the name of that last song was Sounds Like Home to Me. And that's on a record that's going to be out in just a couple of months, so watch for that. This song, me and Jeffrey Steele and a guy named Shane Miner wrote. My granddaddy on my dad's side was a farmer. And Jeffrey and Shane and I were writing this song about farmers. And I was trying to come up with some inspiration on the song we were working on. And I was thinking about my granddaddy going outside his house, walking out by the barn, and he had this old International Harvester combine tractor. And so we're talking, struggling with the other song, and Jeffrey goes, "Man, let's write a song about the tractor." And so here's a song about a tractor. It was like this. I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, hogging up the road on my plower, chug-a-lug-a-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. 3 miles of cars laying on their horns, falling on deaf ears of corn. They'll lined up behind me like a big parade. Burger, road rage, jerk, shouting obscene words, flipping me the bird. Well, you might be on a state paved road, but that blacktop cuts to my payload. Yeah, forgive me for trying to do my job. This sure ain't been no bumper crop. You don't like the way I'm driving, get back on that interstate. Otherwise, be nice and sit tight, but you're honking at me that way. Cause I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I got 2 boys in the county 4-H. I'm a lifetime sponsor of the FFA. That's what I make a lot of hay for a little pay. But I'm proud to say I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, holding the road on my plower, chug-a-lug-a-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. That's right. Well, I know you got your own deadline, but that cussing at me won't save you no time, boss. And this big wheel wide load ain't going any faster. So just smile and wave and tip your hat and man up on the tractor. Cause I'm the son of a third-generation farmer. I've been married 10 years to the farmer's daughter. I got 2 boys in the county 4-H. I'm a lifetime sponsor of the FFA. That's what I make a lot of hay for a little pay. But I'm proud to say I'm a God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, holding up the road on my plower, chug-a-lug-a-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. Yeah. God-fearing, hard-working combine driver, holding the road on my plower, chug-a-lug-a-lugging 5 miles an hour on my international harvester. Whew, thank you. That was a mouthful. So any of you guys that are country fans might remember Craig Morgan put that song out several years ago, and that was my first top 10 song that I wrote with Jeffrey Steele, and kind of got me going a little bit in the business, opened up some doors for me, and you know, that was a real life changer for me. Bought a Jeep that I still have, paid cash for it. That was my first kind of treat to myself after all the years of struggling in the business. But so that was probably, I don't know, man, maybe probably 2007 or 8. And I signed a publishing deal, and I was kind of doing all that stuff and just trying to get cuts on records. I landed cut with Gretchen Wilson and Montgomery Gentry, you know, a few other songs, and yeah, it was kind of a life changer. Somebody's asking me what's in the cup. Let me show you, since it's got my last name on it, and it's whiskey. It is actually my favorite whiskey, which is High West Double Rye. High West out of Park City, Utah. They make this really, really good whiskey called Double Rye. And yeah, I'm having happy hour along with you guys, if that's okay. If I go through 3 or 4 of these, the music's going to get real weird in about 40 minutes, though. So just, I'll take my time on them. Here's another song. I wrote this with a girl named Kelly Archer and a guy named Justin Weaver. And some of y'all that were here from the get-go heard John mention I had a song with Jason Aldean a few years ago called She's Country. And after that song hit, I was writing with Kelly and Justin. Justin is actually Jason Aldean's best friend. And so we came in to write on a Monday morning, and Justin had been out with Jason Aldean all weekend. And he said, man, we talked a little bit about what he's looking for. And I think, you know, I've got an idea for a song, and I think I know what's kind of right down the alley. So we wrote this song and immediately pitched it to Jason Aldean and his producer. And his producer said, man, we really, really love it, but it's got the word country in the title, and we don't want to do another song with country in the title. So man, you know, it's going to be a hit for somebody to go pitch it around. So I told them about it. I'm like, oh man, what a bummer. So we started pitching it around, and we kept having these meetings in town where we would pitch it to everybody from Blake Shelton to whoever else, Tim McGraw. And their record label would hear the song and they'd go, man, this is a great song, but I don't really hear it for our artist. You know who would be great for this song is Jason Aldean. So that's what we wrote it for. We couldn't get the song cut. So finally, after several months of pitching it, my publisher calls me and goes, hey, Chris Cagle wants to do Got My Country On. And no offense at all to Chris Cagle, but at the time he had not been on the radio, you know, for a bit. And I was kind of like, you know, man, I hope that turns out good, whatever, you know. He ended up doing the song, and the song went to like number 8. It was his last top 10 song, and did really, really well. And I was grateful to have it on the radio. So anyway, Got My Country On goes like this. Money, bring it back to mama, bet she give me some honey, yeah. Cash my check, got a pocket of dollars, loosening the buttons on my blue collar, yeah. Oh, this is what I do, this is where I stand, this is who I am, living the song. I got my country on. Rolling it home, 5 o'clock on Friday. Gonna spend the next couple of days doing it my way. Yeah. Call up a few friends, build a fire in the backyard. Don't wanna be some children, chicken grilling and guitars, yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is all I know. This is where I'm from. This is what I love. Living the song of a rambling man, getting it done with my own church where the good Lord saved me, yeah. Living the song of a rambling man, getting it done with my own two hands, putting some grain in a coffee can. When I'm gone, tricking my truck like a Cadillac, bringing it up with my cowboy hat, rolling and bumping to the man in black, singing along. I got my country home. 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 Yeah. Woo. All right. Hey, hit me with some questions if you guys have any questions. John Hyatt from Eric. Man, randomly, I was with a publishing company called BMG back in, let me think, this would have been probably like 93 to 96. And John Hyatt was a BMG writer. And so I met him a couple of times. I never worked with him. But one of the coolest things I ever did, this was back during the time that Bonnie Raitt, Nick of Time record blew up. And so working on a love letter and all that stuff, man, these John Hyatt songs blew up. And so back in the day, they, you know, in the tape copy room where they kept all the, you know, the songs that they would pitch, they had these little DAT digital audio tapes. And so I would go in there every 2 or 3 weeks, and me and a buddy, after everybody else was gone, and we would sit in there and put on headphones, and we would just listen down to all the new songs that John Hyatt was turning in. And he's ridiculous. He's just such a badass, man. He's so good. And, you know, he paints pictures and songs like nobody but John Hyatt can do. You know, he's great. So no, I hate that I haven't worked with him, but you know, he is phenomenal. I'm a fan. Any other questions as we're songs? Don't be afraid to ask. Who have I been most impressed with? Man, that's a tough question. I can tell you going back to, so I was in this band, Western Flyer, in the 90s. And, you know, we got to tour a little bit with several different artists. That all treated us really, really well. I'll tell you, there's a couple of really, really cool situations that we had, which is kind of odd because, you know, the 90s are sort of the new era. But we did these 2 really, really random tours at the time. And our band was kind of like an Eagles kind of thing, 6 guys who all sang harmonies. And, you know, we were really into those 70s kind of country rock vocal bands. But we ended up doing like a 12-city Midwest tour with Tammy Wynette, of all people, that we opened for her across like Des Moines, Wichita, Kansas, Kansas City, Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska. And man, she was just super, super sweet to us. Another one back in that time, a guy named Chris Ledoux that most of y'all probably have never heard of, but Chris Ledoux was a huge, huge influence on Garth Brooks. We toured for a little bit with him, and he was wonderful. And then, you know, as I've been lucky enough to have a few hit songs, I got to tell you, man, Tim McGraw is just gold. He's just one of the nicest guys you would ever meet. He really, really has a huge respect for songwriters, and, you know, kind of recognizes in a really humble way that he's not a writer. And so he really admires the guys who writes the songs that work for his career and have given him the life that he has. And so he's always just super, super gracious, you know, which is awesome. Inspirations, who would you want to sing with? Man, I mentioned earlier I grew up on gospel music and kind of lived in this sort of, you know, small filter world. But the band that changed everything for me was the Eagles. Like I had, you know, my upbringing was very, very like gospel music only, and a little bit of country thrown in there. And so when the Eagles first came out, and it was like, you know, Tequila Sunrise and Peaceful Easy Feeling, and, Take It Easy and songs like that that were country enough that my super strict parents didn't freak out about it, you know. And me and my brothers learned to sing harmony to that stuff. And so I've never, you know, met a couple of them, never got to work with them or spend any time with them, but man, absolutely love the Eagles. Any Rascal Flatts, any Tennessee Whiskey? Well, here's the deal. I'm kind of playing my own songs today, so I'm not really doing like the cover gig kind of thing. You know, maybe we end up back in here another time, get me a little drunk, and I'll play anything. I'll play some Lady Gaga. You never know. I'm not afraid. I'm going to play a song. Speaking of inspirations, this kind of makes me think of this song. I'm going to play a song about songs. Nobody's cut this song yet. Nobody's recorded it. But me and two buddies wrote it probably maybe a year and a half ago. And randomly, we got into a conversation about songs. And just like your question there, talking about songs and artists that inspired us to want to do this. And we ended up sort of talking about all these songs and listing all these bands and stuff. And then Matt Alderman, one of the guys in the room, had this great hook title that we ended up writing to. And anyway, it's a little bit of a love song. I don't write a lot of love songs, but I hope you like this one. I still hope it's going to find a home at some point. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever written. But anyway, it goes like this. I pick up this old guitar, looking for a place to start, a melody straight from the heart the world can sing along to. 'Cause every song needs motivation, a little spark of inspiration. Everybody's looking for a muse to help them find their three chords and the truth. Yeah, Paul was thinking about yesterday. Otis sat on the dock of the bay, and Ray, he had George on his mind. Springsteen was born to run. Marley was all about one love and guns and roses rock, sweet child of mine. Johnny sang about June. I sing about you. 'Cause girl, the only song worth playing is the one about the love we're making. Gets me feeling like you're laying right here next to me. You put the magic into these 6 strings. Yeah, Paul was thinking about yesterday. Otis sat on the dock of the bay, and Ray, he had George on his mind. Springsteen was born to run. Marley was all about one love and guns and roses rock, sweet child of mine. Johnny sang about June. Oh, girl, I sing about you. Yeah, Louis saw a wonderful world. Morrison loved a brown-eyed girl, and Merle, oh, God knows Mama tried. Patsy told us she was crazy. That's how I feel about you, baby. I mean every word of every line. Johnny sang about June, 'cause that's what love makes guys like us do. I sing about you. Yeah, baby, I sing about you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Desiree. What a sweet thing to say. I sure appreciate it. Yeah, that's one of those songs that we've been kind of like, man, surely somebody wants to sing that. And it's been really, really close a couple of times on records and hasn't quite landed yet, which is very, very frustrating. But it will. We're trusting that it will. I think I'm gonna do a whiskey song. That's okay. Can I sing about whiskey? Is that all right? This is another song off my new record I just finished, and if y'all will go follow me on social media. Follow me if you're on Instagram or Facebook. Follow just Danny Myrick, and I'll keep posted when that record comes out. I'm trying to get it out here in just the next few weeks. And let me say again, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit and listen. Thanks to Hotel Sparrow for having me. This is really, really cool of you guys to sponsor this. And Chris and John and all y'all, I really, really appreciate it. And Betsy. Anyway, this song's called Whiskey Ain't Got a Thing on You. I wrote it a couple years ago. It's on that new record. It goes like this. I'll take these four wheels off the highway, spin that gravel into tailgate paint. There's a cowboy bar on the edge of town, an empty stool and a bottle of Crown, ready to get me stoned and sideways. Shot by shot and round by round, drinking to burn your memory down. It's doing all it can do, but the cold hard 100-proof truth is whiskey ain't got a thing on you. Just like a prayer that never gets through, from a sinner on a backslid pew. Pour some poison in that glass, chase a high that just won't last, till you're right back in my rear view. Shot by shot and round by round, drinking to burn your memory down. It's doing all it can do, but the cold hard 100-proof truth is whiskey ain't got a thing on you. Whiskey ain't got a thing on you. I'll take these four wheels off the highway, try like hell to medicate this pain. Shot by shot and round by round, drinking to burn your memory down. It's doing all it can do, but the cold hard 100-proof truth. This whiskey ain't got a thing on you. It's true. Whiskey ain't got a thing on you. Whiskey ain't got a thing on you. Thank you. Cheers, y'all. Let me think. Where do I want to go? Any questions? Is there a reason why you can't or don't record it? There's no reason why I could not record and put out a Sing About You, except in a perfect world for a vocational songwriter, it would be great if somebody would record it that would actually make me some money. So, yes, thank you, John. Instagram is Danny Myrick, and yeah, y'all go hit me up. Topic or subject? Not really a specific topic or subject. Songwriters, I think the best way to approach that is just to write what's real to you, and I grew up in gospel music. One of the reasons that I got out of gospel music as a writer was just this sort of sense of being fenced in, and for those of you who, might be Christians or into Christian music or whatever else, that's totally great. It's nothing about that, but it's more like, there's only 3 or 4 things that you can say ultimately. It would be like if you decided you're only going to write love songs, and your brain kind of gets stuck on like, man, what else is there to say that hasn't been said, And what I really try to do is just write honestly, and try to be open to, all of the ups and downs that we go through with life, and just be true to the song. Every now and then you'll see a bumper sticker or a t-shirt or something that goes, oh, it's a great song idea. Or you might hear a sermon, or, you might be going through a broken heart, or a divorce or a death or whatever. Lord knows I've been in all of the above. But, and those things inspire you just to kind of write from your heart and be honest, right? And just kind of tell your truth, and put it in songs. And so that's kind of the approach, not any specific thing, but just try to be as real as I can. You guys want to hear a song? You want to play an Eagles song? Is that all right? Y'all open to that at all? I see some hands waving. It's cool. I mentioned earlier, man, I'll never forget being a kid and hearing the Eagles for the first time. And just like, I had 2 brothers, and we all sang harmonies and geeked out on that. We were like, we would go play these late night concerts and have to drive back late Saturday night to be back home for church Sunday morning and play and sing at church or whatever. And so I grew up, listening to the radio and jukeboxes at truck stops where we would stop and hang. But we would try to mimic like radio jingles, right? So like I grew up in South Mississippi, down close to New Orleans, and WWL down there, WWL, New Orleans. We would do this stuff and try to do the harmonies. And every time we would hear a new, a radio thing, we'd try to nail those harmonies. And so when the Eagles came out, man, it was like, holy crap. And this is actually one, those guys didn't write. Now, this is the Jackson Brown song. But it goes like this. It's a good song for a happy hour Monday. Here we go. Running down the road, trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. Oh, they wanna own me too. They wanna stone me once. So she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Light it up while you still can. Try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand. Take it easy. Well, I was standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my Lord, and a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Had a band. Well, I was running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got world of trouble on my mind. Thank you very, very much. Let's check this tuning real quick. We tune because we care. That's our saying as performers. Let me think where I can go now. Yeah, I'll play a new song by a new artist. So one of the things that's cool about getting to write songs for a living, being here in Nashville, is we meet all these new artists that move to town, you know, trying to pursue their dream and be the next whoever, Keith Urban, like Shelton, Chesney, whoever. And there's a guy who moved here a few years ago named Trey Landon. He's from a little town called Claxton, Georgia. And I met Trey 2 or 3 years ago. We started writing together a little bit, and I ended up getting a couple of cuts. He just put out a new record a few months ago, and I got a couple of songs on it. But this one really means a lot to me. I a couple little stories behind it. One is, so Trey is like this, you know, 27-year-old, good-looking dude from Georgia. All the girls love him. He's got the swagger on stage. You know, they all think he's just dreamy and whatever. And he's a great country singer, like kind of in like Keith Whitley meets Luke Bryan sort of mode. Like he's really, really great. And so we were writing one day, I don't know, maybe like a Wednesday or Thursday, and he was telling me about where he lives. And I don't know how recently you guys have been to Nashville, but you know, it's sort of become this place, this party town, and downtown we've got all the high rises and everybody's got a rooftop and, you know, with a bar and stuff. So he was telling me, sounded just like any 20-something-year-old dude going, man, y'all see this place downtown I'm living at? Man, it's great. I got this great view, and we got this rooftop bar, man. I go up and hang after happy hour. The hottest girls up there, and you know, it's all this kind of stuff. Just being all country boy about this. And so I'm like, yeah, man, you know, that's cool, awesome, you know. And anyway, he leaves and he goes home to Georgia over the weekend. And we're supposed to ride on Monday. So he's driving in Monday morning, and he calls me about an hour out of Nashville. He goes, man, I had this song idea hit me. He goes, you know, I got out of Nashville, and I went home for the weekend to my grandparents, and, you know, we just kind of sat on the front porch all weekend long. And I went and just kind of drove my truck out in the country where they live. And man, I was kind of inspired at like, man, I love doing the bars and getting buzzed on a Saturday night and all that up there. But man, it was really cool just to slow down and be back where I came from. And I thought, man, this is what feeling good really feels like. And so he had this idea, and we jumped on it. And I told him it reminded me of being, you know, at my grandparents' house when I was 13, 14, 15, a little town called Sharon, Mississippi, nothing little place. But they had the screened-in porch on the front of their house, right? And my granddaddy was a farmer. And so I remember sitting there on Saturdays, we would go up to visit grandparents, and it's like, you know, shucking corn and shelling butter beans and peas and stuff, sitting on the front porch, sipping sweet tea and waving at the 2 cars that drove by all day Saturday. You know what I mean? I just remember being a teenager going, oh my God, if you would just get me out of this godforsaken place, you know? So I moved to Nashville chasing this dream, and it's been so great. I'm so honored to do it. But we were talking about how that Nashville is now just so busy. Like it's hard to even go run an errand. Not right now, but under normal circumstances, it's hard to go run an errand in less than an hour. It's just busy and crowded and all this stuff. And I said, man, it's funny how the older I get, I would really, really love to have, you know, a Saturday sitting all day long with my grandparents and waving at the 2 cars and slowing it way down. You know what I mean? So we ended up writing this song, and I'm really, really proud of it. It's on his new record. It came out on all the Spotify, iTunes, all this stuff, probably 3 or 4 months ago. Y'all check him out. It's TREA, Trey Landon. And the song is called What Feeling Good Feels Like. It goes like this. Sweet tea on a front porch, cool breeze through a screen door, watching a red sun sink and a full moon rise. That's what feeling good feels like. Kicking back in my old boots, slow hands on a clock move, ain't be Andy and Opie and Blue. black and white. That's what feeling good feels like. Sometimes it ain't the buzz from a bar on a Saturday night. Sometimes a backward windshield view is better than a high rise. Taking it slow, pulling me close, look in her eye. That's what feeling good feels like. A couple crickets and a cane pole, Southern Firefly light show, Don Williams on the radio all night. That's what feeling good feels like. Sometimes it ain't the buzz from the bar on a Saturday night. Sometimes a back road windshield view is better than a high rise. Taking it slow, that pulling me close, look in her eye. That's what feeling good feels like. Yeah, sometimes it ain't the buzz from a bar on a Saturday night. Sometimes a back road windshield view is better than a high rise. Taking it slow, seeing forever in her pretty eyes. That's what feeling good feels like. Sweet tea on a front porch, cool breeze through a screen door, thanking the man upstairs for a simple life. That's what feeling good feels like. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, I had started writing a few years ago pretty regularly with a couple artists you may know, Chris Jansen and Locash, and we started writing pretty regularly every couple of weeks, and one day we had a write scheduled, and we normally were kind of doing like these separate writes, and this one day we're all four together, and we decided to just keep it and go. And so, a little inside thing here in Nashville, we get these tip sheets every few weeks, and what's on a tip sheet is it'll let you know who's recording the next few weeks, right? So it'll be like, it'll say something usually really specific, like, you know, Keith Urban is going in, see, what's today, May 11th, whatever. Keith Urban's going in on June 2nd. He's looking for, usually gets really specific, like up-tempo, positive, summer radio smash. And we all go, who knew, right? Anyway, so that's kind of the thing we'll get. So this one particular morning, I'm getting ready to go to this co-write, and I check my email, and I have this tip sheet, and I happen to notice one of the artists that are on there I know his producer pretty well, and so I'm like, hey man, I'll call him on the way to the right and see what they're looking for. So I called him up and I go, hey man, I'm writing with Locash and Chris Jansen today, and I saw you guys are recording in a couple of weeks and thought we might write something for the record. What kind of songs are you looking for? And so he goes, man, we're doing a traditional country record, man. You know, we're just looking for great country songs, you know. And I'm like, who knew? And so I'm like, well, you know, help me out a little bit. Like, maybe there's something that you've got too much of that you don't need any more of? Like sometimes some of these male artists, for example, they'll cut like 2 love ballads on one record, and if they've got them, they won't listen anymore. So he goes, well, now that you mention it, we don't need any songs that talk about like how country your country is, or like back roads or dirt roads, or, you know, trucks or trains or dogs or prisons. Anyway, yeah, he goes down this whole list of things, and I'm like, well, man, I get that, but like, you know, I come from Mississippi, and all my cousins down there, like they drive jacked up trucks and wear camo coveralls, and they love these songs that say I'm from the country, whatever. And anyway, I finished the song or the conversation with him, and I go into the co-write, and Jansen has been out in the woods hunting, right? So he comes in, and he's wearing this camo thing, you know, and he smells like he's been in the woods. And so I start telling the story about this conversation, and Chris is like, man, screw that dude, man. Let's write a song. It's like, hell yeah, I'm country. I don't care what you think about it. You know, real total Chris Chance. And I'm like, all right, and we can write whatever you want. And then one of the low cash goes like, screw that dude. F yeah, I'm country. Let's write that. I'm like, well, man, I would love to get this on the radio. I don't think that's going to do it, right? And so Preston from Low Cash goes, how about Truck Yeah, I'm country? And I just thought it was honestly one of the dumbest things I've ever. I looked at him like, Truck Yeah? I'm like, I'm not writing a song called Truck Yeah. And about an hour or two later, we had the song called Truck Yeah written. And Low Cash was like, this is our next single, dude. We're going to cut this song. I'm telling you, man, we love it and blah, blah, blah. So sure enough, they got a session scheduled and they're going to record the song. It's going to be their next single, put it out on the radio. And about a week and a half later, Jansen calls me, he goes, man, you're not going to believe this, but Tim McGraw wants to do our song. And I'd written a bunch of songs with Chris. I'm like, which one? He goes, Truck Yeah. I'm like, wait, Tim McGraw is going to cut Truck Yeah? What? And so sure enough, man, he ended up cutting the song, and it became the first single on his next record. And it became a big Ford truck commercial. And I'll say this, for those of you guys who really like your country music, really deep and cerebral, this would be a good bathroom break time for you guys. This is not that, right? But if some of you West Coast people don't mind getting your redneck on just a little bit, the Truck Yeah, mother truckers, here we go. I got Lil Wayne pumping on my iPod, thumping on the subs in the back of my crew cab. Redneck rocking like a rock star, sling a little mud up the back, you can do that. Friday night football, Saturday last call, Sunday hallelujah. If you like it up loud, if you feel really proud that you know what I'm talking about, let me hear you say truck, yeah, gonna get jacked up, yeah, let's crank it on up, yeah, with a little bit of luck, find me a girl with a truck, yeah, we can rub it on up, yeah, till the sun comes up, yeah, and if you think this life I love is a little too country, truck, yeah. Well, I party in the club in the honky-tonk downtown. Yeah, that's where we like to hang out. Chilling in a back room, hanging with my whole crew, sipping on a cold brew. Hey now, got a mixed up playlist, DJ. Play this, I wanna hear a country song. If you like it up loud, if you feel really proud, throw your hands up, let me hear you shout. Come on, truck, yeah, I'm gonna get jacked up. Yeah, let's crank it on up. Yeah, with a little bit of luck, I can find me a girl with a truck. Yeah, we can love it on up. Yeah, till the sun comes up. Yeah, and if you think this life I love is a little too country, truck, yeah, come on now. Rap or country, city, farm, it don't matter who you are. You got a little fight, got a little love, got a little redneck in your blood. Are you one of us? Truck, yeah, gonna get jacked up. Yeah, come on, hang it on up. Yeah, with a little bit of luck, I can find me a girl with a truck. Yeah, we can live it on up. Yeah, till the sun comes up. Yeah, and if you think this life I love is a little too country, you're right on the money. Truck, yeah. Truck, yeah, mother truckers. That's a good question from Robin. So what happened with Truck Yeah was, this is really, really fascinating. So McGraw was in the middle of this lawsuit to get out of his existing record contract, right? He was signed originally by a guy named Mike Curb. For those California people, he used to be the governor of California. I might remember his name. So he started Curb Records. He signed McGraw from early on. One of his early radio promotion people was a guy named, shoot, help me, Chris. Borchetta's dad's name. I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, doesn't matter. But this guy named Borchetta was one of the radio guys. Well, now Big Machine Records is run, you know, go back 4 or 5 years ago, whatever this was, by Scott Borchetta, who's the son of Tim McGraw's original radio guy. And Big Machine Records is who Taylor Swift is with. Y'all might have seen him on TV. He signed Taylor Swift. Well, he ended up offering McGraw a record deal to leave Curb and come to Big Machine. And Curb said, dude, you're under contract. You can't do that. So anyway, he decides he's going to do it. Low Cash is going to do the song. But when we found out that Tim McGraw wanted to do it, Low Cash took a step back. And, you know, they're writers as well. And they're going like, I mean, I think we could do pretty well with it, but McGraw will probably do better than us. So let's let him have the song and record it. And, man, right in the middle of him having another single with that other record label, Scott Borchetta put the song out right in the middle of it, and it did pretty well. I can't complain. So another big shout out to Hotel Sparrow. Thank you guys again for sponsoring this. Can I do a couple more songs? Is that all right? We okay on time? A couple more. The whiskey's just now taking hold, so I'm ready to roll now. Right. Here comes the Lady Gaga. No, I'm just kidding. Gay, thank you very much. It's a very sweet thing to say. Desiree, performing or writing songs you prefer one over the other? Man, they kind of are two different worlds. What most people don't know about most songwriters that you don't know our names, most of us moved to town to be rock stars. A lot of songwriters here in town that have made a living as songwriters moved here to be artists. Most of us had record deals, and for whatever reason, it didn't work to the level of some of these other guys. And as a matter of fact, if you could see the behind the scenes for forget even, you know, Kenny Chesney or Luke Combs or Luke Bryan, somebody who's on top, like, you know, take a Mitchell Tenpenny who had a #1 song last year, or Michael Ray who's had 2 or 3 #1 songs. For every one of those guys, there's, I don't know, 200, 300 who got signed and it never happened. And when I say guys, I mean male, female, whatever, just the artists that got signed. It's such a hard world. And so for those of us as songwriters, man, I'm incredibly lucky and grateful and fortunate that my band lost its record deal. I had 2 young kids and kind of refocused, and Jeffrey Steele, as I mentioned, was a big mentor to me. And we got the Craig Morgan hit, and it kind of got going. And I've been able to make a living as a songwriter, although that's not so easy these days. It's kind of like being in the restaurant or hotel business. Pretty tough, right? These days. All right, so I'm gonna do this song. Speaking of Jeffrey, I was writing for his publishing company, and I wrote one day with this girl named Bridget Tatum, who was a good friend of mine. I was producing her record as an artist. Bridget is from South Carolina, and I don't know if anybody on here was from Carolina, but, you know, they call it Kakalaki. She's from South Kakalaki. And she came in one day, and she kind of talks like this right here. She came in, she goes, there ain't enough songs for girls on the radio. We need to write a song for girls. I'm like, well, let's do it, man. Let's write a song for girls. So she had this idea started, and we ended up writing this song, and we demoed it up, and it's just like super aggressive, kind of rocking, this sort of, you know, Led Zeppelin meets AC/DC meets country kind of thing. And I'm like, man, nobody's going to record the song. And I had just had a single called Loud on a duo called Big and Rich. And so I sent it to John Rich. I'm like, man, maybe, you know, and he's like, dude, I love this song, but we just finished the record. So I'd heard Jason Aldean, I heard Hicktown and a couple other songs he had. I'm like, man, this guy seems to kind of be pretty aggressive. Maybe he would do the song. So I sent it to his producer, and sure enough, they flipped out over the song. He told me that Jason said, man, there's a lot of words in this song. He's concerned that he can't sing it, like it's too wordy. But he rode around his truck for a couple of weeks and decided to do it. And man, they dropped this thing as a single. This is early days of streaming, right? Like that was all really new. They dropped She's Country. He played it on the CMA Awards on a Wednesday night. They went to radio with it on Monday. And for the next 2 weeks, it was the most streamed and downloaded. It was the most downloaded song on iTunes, all genres, for about 2 weeks. And it was, this actually was the biggest downloaded song in country music history up until a couple of years ago. And because it was brand new and all that. And a little known fact about this song that some of you will appreciate and others will be offended by is that not only was this the most played country song on the radio in 2009, this was the most played country song in strip clubs in 2009. So I had nothing to do with it. I didn't research it. It just is what it is. All right. Anyway, it goes like this. This is for all the country girls out there. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to do one more, man. I appreciate y'all hanging and listening. That's very, very cool of y'all. I'm going to close with this song because it really, really hits me strongly, especially in this craziness that we're in now. When I wrote the song with Low Cash and Chris Jansen, and when we wrote it, neither of those guys had record deals. They were both independent, trying to do their thing. And Low Cash had a single that they wrote called "You Gonna Fly" for Keith Urban. We had Truck Yeah, and then suddenly we hit this downturn, and man, none of us we just weren't getting on the radio. We were frustrated, and we were hanging one day, and to be honest with you, just doing a little bit of bitching and moaning. We were very aggravated at the business, and like, you know, it's like so hard to get in these clicks and make your way in and land songs, and you know. After about 20 minutes of a pity party, finally Jansen was like, man, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going and I'm getting in a van, going out with some guys I enjoy, and we're playing music this weekend, and somebody's coming to hear us play, and somebody's paying $10 for a ticket, and they're buying beers and hanging with their girlfriend or their boyfriend or whatever, and they're coming to a show, coming to hear me play. And ultimately, that's a pretty dang great way to make a living and to live life. And if it never gets better than this, you know, he said, man, my granddaddy used to, or he said his dad was like a handyman or something and made like, most he ever made in a year was like 32,000 bucks or something. And so we kind of just refocused and we're like, man, let's, we wanted to write kind of an anthemic song. Garth Brooks was looking and we wrote this for him, and he ended up not doing it. It got passed on by a couple different people, and Low Cash put it out, and this sort of became the little train that could, man. This song ended up being one of the most played songs of 2016, and it's kind of my shout out to small town American life. A little story within the story is my granddaddy, who was the carpenter I mentioned earlier, if we were up there on the weekend, he would say to me and my brother, hey, you guys, you know, you boys want to go to town. And going to town was a big deal when you're in Southern Mississippi. Yeah, let's go to town. It means you get RC and a moon pie or something. So we would get in his truck, and there was this really kind of hilly road, right, going into downtown Soso and the one red light down there. But right before you get to Soso, Mississippi, there was a train track. And so he would always speed up a little bit, and we're on those bench seats of this pickup, right? And he hits the train track, and me and my brother Robbie go flying all over the cab of the truck. Thought it was just the coolest thing ever. I know you'd get arrested for that these days, but it was awesome. And so we wrote about that when we on the first verse of this song. We were talking about those stories. And anyway, thank you all so much again for having me. John, Betsy, Chris, thanks for making this happen. Hotel Sparrow, thanks for supporting and sponsoring us today. And y'all keep enjoying these Mondays as long as we have to do them. So I'll leave y'all with this one. My boots broken, I love my camo hat. Don't mind a little paint on my jeans, yeah, I roll like that. I love driving my truck across the railroad track. If you hit it too quick, it'll hit you right back. I love a fresh cut field on the first frost dawn. How it shines like gold when the sun turns on. I love the sound of them wheels, my baby singing along. Boys of summer. I love my small town world, I love a country girl, I love a Friday night, and I love this life, the sound of the old road, going through my mind, and I love, and I love, and I love this life, yeah. I love a county line bar where they all know my drink. The way she throws her hands up when the cover band plays. I love the taste of her lips when she's been sipping that wine. I still get drunk on her every time, yeah. I love my small town world, I love a country girl, I love a Friday night, and I love this life, the sound of the road, rolling through my mind, and I love, and I love, and I love this life. I love that ragged old barn that my grandpa made. It was my whole world back in my innocent days. I love that little white church out on 109. It's where I hit my knees and I thank the Lord for the songwriter life of mine. I love the small town world, I love the country girl, I love a Friday night, and I love this life, the sound of the road, going through my mind, and I love, and I love, and I love this life. Oh, 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 oh. I love this life. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah.
awesome. Great job, man. Appreciate you.
guys
Thanks
so
for joining us. We, as
Absolutely.
you know, as we talked about, we're going through some tough times, and we're all just looking for a little outlet. And we really
I feel you.
appreciate what you've given us tonight. It's been awesome, and we wish you all the best. And hopefully, we'll cross paths again here real soon. Thanks to Hotel Sparrow and Desiree for sponsoring us. Chris Alderman and Deluge Music, and thank you all for joining us. Danny, appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.